right? He never said, I'm the only one. He never says, he actually did say, like, the Israelites are my people. So they were assigned to him, which is why he was so adamant to actually protect them and take them to another land and grow them and have them serve him and all of that. So when he tells Moses to go from Egypt and go into Israel, he tells him, you will find people there who worship other gods, but I do not want to share you with other gods. I am a jealous God. You are mine. So you go and you destroy their monuments, and I will help you do that as well. He actually sent one of his ships or one of his devices to help destroy Jericho when they reached. So this shows that this God was only given a specific amount of people, and that's why they are God's chosen people. But they are so different from the other ones, and they're so different from the other gods.
Hey, before we start the episode, if you're on YouTube or Rumble, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. You want to make a comment? Go for it. It's America. If you catch me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit me with those 5 stars. I appreciate the support. Let's start the show. All right. Welcome back to Beyond the Frequency 369. And as a reminder, if you guys haven't noticed, got some merch. Got a new logo. We are in season 2 of the podcast. If you don't know, the way I'm doing my seasons is that my power number is the number 2. All right. My actually birthday is on the 20th. So I am doing 20 episodes for every season. So that's how you guys are going to know when I'm hitting my next season. So that's how we're doing it. But that's not the great news. The great news is the fact that we have a returning champion here in season 2, a fan favorite, Sergio Halabi. Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Cesar, how are you? Hope you're good.
Yeah. I'm doing fantastic, dude. I was telling you offline that you have some fans, one of them being my twin brother.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Actually, just for shits and giggles, can you say what's up to my brother Carlos?
What's up, Carlos? Thank you for, enjoying the 2 episodes before, and hopefully this one as well would be good.
Yeah, absolutely, Carlos. That was for you, buddy. So that's going to be fun. So Sergio, I asked you to come back because, first of all, you like going down these rabbit holes, but in a fun way. Mm-hmm. It's not just a straight up, like, here's the facts, here's what it is, we just talk and everything, and through conversation, we're just kind of navigating through these different topics and realms. So before we start that, can you remind the audience, for those that probably didn't see the first season, again, who you are, where you at, what do you do, your podcast, things like that?
Sure. So basically, I have also my own podcast, and it's Paradigm Shift with Sergio Halabi, right here behind me. And my main goal in that podcast is, as I say it as in the bio, which is exploring forgotten truth, going down that path into knowledge that was once acquired by us. Our ancestors knew things, whether it was on a cosmic level, whether it was on a spiritual level, and we sort of lost this knowledge over these years, over the centuries, whether it was a deliberate way for us, and someone worked so that we forget this knowledge, or whether it was just lost to us through time. My main goal is to revisit this information, this knowledge, understand mythology, understand religions, everything that has been once dominating over the world. I want to revisit it in a new light, understand it in a new vocabulary, and see how we can, reignite it so that we can bring back this power to mankind, what we can do, how powerful we really are, what we can achieve. So that's my main goal, is to revisit this and then see how we can apply it in today's world.
Very good. Very good. And how can they get a hold of you if they want to talk to you?
So I'm mostly on, I have an Instagram page, which is the same name, Paradigm Shift. You can look there. I always get DMs over there and communicate with me anytime. I absolutely love it. I love hearing people listening to me, whether they're in Australia or France or the US and all of that. So I'm always available for that. And yeah, give me your ideas, your thoughts, questions, all of that.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So, Sergio, let's go straight into it. Can you tell us what are we going to talk about today?
So I thought we can start with something quite interesting. It's something that I had an episode of on my podcast, and I want to delve deeper into it, more of a conversation style, which is about this theory of hollow Earth, right? Like there is this theory that is unbelievable, is sort of, there are a lot of evidence behind it through mythology. Today, we can always spot certain things that are happening, where the main entrance to that hollow Earth is, what's going on down there, who lives there, why has it been hidden, and all of that. So that's a very interesting topic. And I feel it should be, at least for some people, to understand or to know that this is a thing, and look into it yourself, see what sort of evidence people are looking into, people talk about. And yeah, to me, that's a very interesting topic.
Yeah, fantastic. And for those of you that don't know the term hollow Earth, basically, like Sergio was also explaining, there's stories that there is another world within our world, just inside where some of these textbooks say there's like a big ball of fire in there. Yep. Or whatever the case is, which, again, who knows, right? Yep. But there's stories where it's hollow, and it's hollow because there's something else in there, which meaning another world. You guys can also see, like, there's stories from Admiral Byrd. He was, I think, a Navy admiral, something like that.
Who went to Antarctica,
he found his way. Yeah, so we're probably going to cover that too and everything. But he found his way into the center of the Earth. And going back years, there's books like from Jules Verne that talks about, what is this? Is this called Center? Something about Center of the Earth, or Journey
to the center of the Earth.
Yes. Center of the Earth and everything. So he talks about that. And then they made some movies on it. You guys know Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He actually made a remake of the original movie. I forgot who the actor was, but there was another actor that did Journey to the Center of the Earth. It was him and like a couple of kids, and they find their way in there, and then they're fighting all these different things that are inside the hollow Earth. Then Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson came out with another movie, pretty much a remake. Same thing, him and then kids and whatnot. It's a fun story to dive into, whether you believe it or not. A lot of people do believe that there is another world within our Earth. There is speculation that the aliens don't come from outer space. They come from inner space, and that's the hollow Earth. So that's always fun too. So with that being said, now that you guys are all caught up, Sergio, the floor is yours, man. What's up?
Well, I mean, to start on something at the end, you said that, aliens come from, whether it's come from, hollow Earth or from up. It's basically both, right? Because you have, usually people, when we talk about aliens, people tend to think we're only talking about one species of aliens, which is the short gray ones. And that is only one out of like maybe hundreds and hundreds that exist within our galaxy, and, whether have they visited Earth now or before and all of that. So there's always these different types of aliens, right? And there has been a lot of, like I said before, like certain, stories and mythologies, and people report on certain things about beings that they have seen come out from this hollow Earth. So just so that we're clear on this, when we talk about beings coming from, the middle of the ocean, as recently has been, propagated in the news and all that, we're not referring to those Greys, as we call them, we're referring to different types of beings that exist and have existed for hundreds and thousands of years. And basically, so the main theory goes is that there is, as you said, there's this world within our world. So it's actually the crust of where we live on the outside. This is where humanity lives right now. But there are beings that have before used to live outside and have also been going down into Earth and have built these cities and have built these very advanced ways and technologies and stuff like that that exist within the crust. The main basically entrance to these places is from Antarctica. And that is one of the biggest reasons why Antarctica is such an off the grid place. And so we cannot visit it. Everything, like even if you do have an expedition there, it's to very limited places where you're allowed to go here and that's it. Like you have to have a guide with you. You have to. And there's this treaty between, I believe, 57 countries, the Antarctica Treaty, where no one can touch. And you would think that's so weird, like right off the bat, because, countries never agree on anything, right? And then
but aliens,
exactly.
Do.
But for some reason, this Antarctica place, we cannot touch it. We all agree not to go there. So there is definitely something going on there. One of the theories is that there's a portal that leads you into the underground. Now, when it comes to this underground and what exists there are been throughout history, so many different civilizations and so many different people have talked about, and they all have their own versions of it. It exists in Hinduism and Hindu mythology. It exists in Celtic mythology. It exists in Native American mythology. There are always these stories about beings coming out from underground where these cities have been built and they are very advanced. They bring knowledge to the people on top. They are basically sort of like watchers, if you want. They don't really interfere with what's going on Earth, but they sort of maintain a balance and kind of help humanity. Not so much in terms of teaching them things or how to, get better, but more like making sure that we don't self-destruct. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stories that have come out recently about when it comes to nuclear warheads and the possibility of nuclear war. And every time there is that topic comes up again. And there was in the, I think, or the 80s, scientists in the US shot, like rockets, nuclear rockets into the sky and into space. And they wanted to study how they would explode in outer space. And there are records, like you can see videos of an object leaving the ocean, following the rocket and rotating around it. And then it's like it does something to it where the rocket explodes without the nuclear energy exploding within it.
Oh, wow.
That is clear as day. You can find it on YouTube even. Like it's really out there and it's really amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and this thing is very common. There's a lot of stories like this. And the idea of living underground is something that has also been, how do I put it? So there's this, I don't know if you've heard of this theory of this man. His name is Valiant Thor. Have you heard of Valiant Thor and the White House? So Valiant Thor is a very prominent figure who appeared in the White House, like as a large, high figure during I believe it was the Kennedy administration. And there are 2 photos of him only in records.
Wow.
And you can also find them online. And
man, while you're talking, I'm going to try to
bring that up.
What's his name?
Valiant Thor. Okay. So this being actually, while he looks human, he was not human. And he has been known to have come from another planet where they also live underground. And it was during this entire, the nuclear missile crisis that was happening between the US and Cuba and the Cold War during that time. And there was there's a book about it. I forgot the name. Let me look into it.
Let me see if I share my screen here.
Oh, right. The Stranger in the White House. That's the name.
Oh, so Valiant Thor, Stranger in the White House?
Yep.
All right, let's try this again. Share. All right. So I'm not. This is what I typed in.
Yep. So it's the top left photo, and the
here?
third one. Yep. And
this one
the
here?
third one. This one. These are the only two known photos of him.
What? Okay.
Yep. And then you see that book, The Men of Earth, as well, which is under.
Yeah. This right here.
And The Stranger at the Pentagon, not on. There's if you go down as well, one more line, The Stranger at the Pentagon. That's the book I have as well. And this story talks about this man visiting the US and going into the Pentagon and discussing things so that basically calms things down when it comes to the entire nuclear crisis that was happening. So it does seem that there's always some form of connection between anything that is under the crust or hollow earth and preventing humanity from this entire self-destruction and annihilation. Very interesting, very small book. I recommend people to read it. There are also other, videos about him as well. So to me, there is this wide connection of things between people not being able to go to certain places on Earth. And then whenever these stories come up, they come up related to a sort of like an underground city and like I said, like a civilization that is interested in the preservation of mankind. That's as far as we know from that.
I'm wondering, see, there's every time that we are restricted from going somewhere on this planet, which I still think that's just complete bullshit. I mean, for other humans to say you can't go here, but we can, like, what?
Well, exactly.
But I always think that it's about technology. Well, ancient technology. It's about them. Like, I don't know if this is still true. I don't know if you've heard of this, Sergio, but I heard that there's parts of the Grand Canyon that is owned by NASA.
Yep.
By NASA. So, like,
Have you heard about parts of the Grand Canyon that have Egyptian artifacts and monuments?
That's what I was hearing. And this is the part where NASA has, I mean, there's a sign there, a sign that says property of NASA or something like that. And I've heard stories of tourists who would just go to the Grand Canyon like anybody else in the United States can, just go there, and they're traveling through donkeys or whatever, or they're flying their copters or whatever, but there's a no-fly zone in a certain area of the Grand Canyon. There's a no like entry point. And there's apparently a group of people that came across, they decided to walk to this entry point, and a military soldier man wearing all black, no particular military branch insignia, but he did have a logo that said NASA. And they asked, like, what's going on? They're like, sorry, you can't come here. And they're like, we didn't see this anywhere. And they're like, well, it's property of NASA. We're like, wait a minute, NASA's that's up there.
Well, since you mentioned it now, I would invite you, go search now and show it on the screen. Just write the Sphinx Grand Canyon. The Sphinx.
Okay. Sphinx and then Grand Canyon, or just Sphinx Grand Canyon?
Sphinx Grand Canyon.
All right, let's see here. All right, I am going to share my screen. All right, I am here.
Now look at the first photo on the left. Yes. So at the bottom, you have the Sphinx of Egypt, right?
Yeah.
Where he's sitting. And then this is the formation in the Grand Canyon. And you can tell, look at the shape of the body. Look at the hands.
What?
Yes.
The hell is going on?
And to go even deeper than that, if there would be another, but if you see under the body, it's like it's actually carved into the wall. So this is not a natural formation. This is definitely go on the right a bit more, behind more, like more. Yes, behind the legs, like where the legs are supposed to be. Yeah, up a little bit. Yeah. So this entire area, it looks like an actual, like, if there are different angles of this that show almost like a temple. It's sort of like this sacred monument that's there.
Yeah. See if it let me. I'm trying to zoom into this. So you're saying this area right here is like carved.
It's carved. The entire thing is carved, but there's more like temples actually, not just as a sphinx as shape, but also it's more like a sacred monument. And no one talks about this, and no one, like from the archaeologists and the scientific community, no one wants to look into this or look at the possibility that this is, could have been carved or a sphinx. But I mean, you can see it, like this is not a natural formation. Right?
No, this is not a natural formation.
This is not a natural
formation. By no means. And like what used to be here. Like,
exactly. So you can either think whether it was destroyed on purpose so that there is no more resemblance, or that this monument is so ancient, we're talking hundreds and thousands of years, that's been completely eroded over, like maybe more than 1 million years ago, because this is the level of erosion.
What if the one in the Grand Canyon, is much older than this? That's what you're thinking, right?
Definitely. And much bigger, by the way, like this
and
is
much,
mountain size. Size.
Remember that. Okay, there's two ways I can go with this. So remember that with ancient, the Anunnaki and everything, they always moved around to different places, and they replicated, temples and pyramids. What if they started off here and for whatever reason, they just said, you know what, X this out, let's go over here. Now, I mean, that's one
to me, it makes sense because anyway, within the Anunnaki mythology, there is, like you said, there's mention of them moving around all over Earth, and they were in fact mining things, right? Like they were mining gold and other resources. It shows that these monuments do exist all over the world. It's not just whether in Egypt. And there's also, I don't know if you're familiar with the Grand Pyramid in Bosnia. Has this come up?
Yeah.
Like that is a mountain by itself.
Look that up. Let's see. Okay,
I love how it's there, but then Google stops searching for it. Did you notice? Like this was an example of information, how they suppress it. So when you're typing Grand Pyramid, it was showing of Giza. But when you started BOS, it didn't show it anymore. Like there's no more search for the word, even though there's a million photo of them that shows them.
So I think it's this one. Wait,
it's that one. Yes,
this one right here, right?
Yep.
That it overgrew. Like they let grass and greenery overgrow it because
that's normal. Overgrowing things on monuments is not a new thing, even among sites that are now archaeologists have discovered. So if you look at Machu Picchu, for example, before it was cleaned up and everything, it looked like a hill. There was nothing there. But what's interesting about this pyramid is, first of all, its shape, which does not look like a regular mountain. Mountains do not have 4 sides equal 4 sides. Yeah. Second, and a lot of people who lived in that village over there have requested from the government and from archaeologists to come and dig up, because they did find at the bottom of this mountain or pyramid, they found steps that haven't been covered completely with grass and have found artifacts. It's sort of like the first pathway into it. And for some reason, the government does not want to look into it or admit that this is something that we could, maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
So
of course they
again,
don't.
It shows these different sites all over the world that have the same, shapes, the same monuments everywhere, and it's just kept, being suppressed and not, put into the news. Like the Grand Canyon Sphinx, like there's no way to deny that, but yet people aren't allowed to go there to take photos, to actually ask the questions and stuff like that.
Which is bull crap. And this is how I picture a lot of these pyramids, just like this. This is what they're doing all the time, just shooting. And, going with what we understand that the Anunnaki did with replicating the same monuments, the same structures all over the world, it makes sense because this high level civilization came here and to start a breakaway civilization, and they must have, in order to do that, you have to have a blueprint, you have to have schematics, and then you have to have an architect, which in this case, for the stories they was talking about Thoth, being the architect of this. And so no one's going to build a megalithic structure without knowing for a fact that this is how you do it. Because there's no oops.
Without knowing that this is how you do it, without understanding the geology of the region and how they make sure that this does not sink into the ground based on how heavy and big this is, without math, physics, chemistry, like everything that they tell you they didn't know at the time, how were they able to build this? And I think I mentioned this last time when I was here, when people tell you that, you look at this design reliefs of, whether it was the Egyptians or whether it was the Mesopotamia, how, they always draw in 2 dimension, right? So you only see them flat on a surface. And then when when you're asking, why don't they draw in them in 3-dimensional space? They tell you, oh, they didn't learn it. They didn't know how to draw in 3-dimension.
Right.
How do you like, you don't know how to do 3-dimensional drawing, but then you build monuments,
Right.
so does
And
not
you build
work.
them and you build them damn near to perfection.
Perfection and lasting thousands of years.
I mean, you have to know everything that goes from what type of material, from the location, from, like you said, the elements. It's
to them, it's like they started without even, like you mentioned, the blueprints, right? To historians, it's like there's not even a blueprint for this. It's like they just start putting one stone after the other, and then they stop going up.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what? Actually, that's a great point, Sergio. So if, without knowing exactly how wide the base needs to be,
exactly,
you just say, let's start here. These are the 4 corners of the triangle, and let's start here.
Yeah.
If it's too small,
of course,
it's not going to add up.
Like even if you want to draw something so simple, like how when people are playing Minecraft, for example, and they put first, they put this the schematics first, and then they build it based on that. And you're telling me, no, these people did not know how to draw in 3-dimensional space, but they built these stuff without any preparations or blueprints.
That's a great challenge. So for those of you listening out there or watching this video, if you are familiar with the game Minecraft, if you have played it, great. If you haven't, check it out. It's a fun little game just to kind of pass some time. But my challenge to you is go to Minecraft and just pick a spot, the pyramid.
Without any planning, just start building.
Without any planning, just start stacking Minecraft blocks.
Yeah.
And if you get a perfect pyramid, send me a screenshot. Send it to the show. Send it to the show, okay? And when I get it, I will shout you out and be like, you know what, you proved me wrong.
They also have to put around 2 million blocks, by the way, not just like a small. 2 million, right?
Okay,
build 2 million blocks worth of pyramids.
Sergio just upped it up. So again, to that challenge, pick a spot, build a pyramid, but it must be exactly 2 million blocks. There's your challenge. Have fun. That is great. I love that. Hey, I had pulled up here also the pyramids in China.
Yep. Right.
Now, I think the Chinese, they don't want you coming over and checking these out. Wait, look at all of these. There's a bunch of them, like right next to each other. And, I mean, what? There's buildings right next to them and everything. Like, just, Sergio, if you and I were over there, just taking an adventure in one of those pyramids would be cool. Imagine
that's
going
like
through
the dream, the dream.
Imagine going through all of these. Hey guys, if you guys want to support this dream of ours, we'll have to figure out some kind of way to get me and Sergio to go to one of these, not the Egyptian pyramids. Those are mainstream right now. Everybody knows what's going on those, but
I've
like
been
all
there
the
anyway,
other,
so it's fine. I've been there.
Yeah. Let's go China, Bosnia, whatever. Let's go to actually anywhere in the world. There's like thousands of pyramids, just anywhere except for underwater, because I can't swim.
Oh, okay.
Except for those and everything. But look at this. I mean, beautiful. So, I mean, look at this question. Was it built by humans? I mean, no. The answer is
And you have
no.
you gotta ask the question, even if let's all agree that it was built by humans, right? Let's play that, and let's there has to be some weird way that these people have communicated with each other. These people weren't aware that other continents exist. You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about different continents. You're not even talking about different countries, and yet they all built the same shapes and used them in the same way. No one in any civilization use the pyramids as tombs, and they still tell you, oh, the pyramids of Giza are tombs. And that's the, that these are the questions that we need, we need to know more about. And when it comes to these pyramids being built to kind of reconnect it to our original topic, so there is this, obviously, that you're familiar with the theory that, there's these giants that existed a long time ago, and they were the ones, who are helping these advanced beings building pyramids. And the giants are even mentioned, the Nephilim, right? They're mentioned in the Bible and other religions and all of that. And there is a theory that goes as well, where that these giants have actually, some of them went underground when the Great Flood happened. So that's why they were no longer, available on the surface, but they still live till today within their own civilization underground. There are certain videos that I also invite people to go out and just put giants spotted in Afghanistan, somewhere in the US as well, I think Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, that it does come up where they see these beings, these very large beings, come out from underground, and then they kind of retreat back into it. So that is also part of this entire story that we have.
Yeah, I was trying to see when you were saying the giant stuff. I remember hearing something about like a giant hammer or a giant axe that was found.
And
I don't know if
used, like it's used.
yeah, I don't know if it was like in the Amazon or something. I
No,
can't.
actually, if you look at Arrow in the Museum of Israel, you will find something very interesting.
But yeah, I know I've seen it somewhere. There was a giant, this one kind of giant axe or hammer that looks like it was just left behind. Kind of like if you just leave a regular hammer just out in the woods and then, eons go by and it gets overgrown. But this thing was like just solid. I mean, it's a solid axe or a hammer. I forgot what it was. And the only people that can probably pick that up would be a giant. I mean,
Exactly, because so there are two types of, and that's what most historians will tell you when it comes to these giant weapons, is that they were more ceremonial, right? Like, so it was normal to give, like, for example, to a king from this dynasty, and like they give them this giant weapon that's never just to display for display. However, they did find certain swords, axes, and arrowheads as well, which are huge in size, but also, the gradation on them shows that they were used in battle and not just old, as in like, like they became more, they degrade
yeah,
over time. So they've seen scars on them and like, lines that indicates that they were used. And it's not possible for any man from our size to actually wield that sort of.
right. And we can see, I mean, we can see with just a regular, like the normal size axe, we can see like if it's being used, we can see the markings, like,
Exactly.
professionals know that. So if you take that same process of how they figure that out, just duplicate it with something giant, you're like, dang, this looks just like the small version of it. If going back to, again, ancient tech, they talk a lot about all these, war of the gods and things like that.
Mhm.
They talk about stories, even in the Bible, again, collection of these stories. But it's even, put there that these giants, these deities, would go to battle with humans against other giants, other gods, and things like that. So it sounds like, if you look at it, again, with the Anunnaki story, there was a bunch of different Anunnaki who were spread out throughout Mesopotamia, and they were given their own humans, their own group of humans and everything. And, they're going to get jealous of each other,
Yeah.
if they're all playing, and again, playing God, if they're all playing God with the lowercase g, one of them eventually, or two of them, or three of them, are going to want to be the one that everybody is worshiping,
Yep.
So how do you make that happen? How do you become the only one? Well, you got to take out the other ones. So you have, and they have disagreements, just like we do as humans. That whole concept, it's always tripped me out. And I probably said this before, how it says that we were made in the image of God. Well, looking at it from our current understanding, if the humans were made like in the image of these giant deities, just a smaller version of it, like we have everything that they have. If we get pissed, they get pissed. If we fight, they fight. If they love, they love. Matter of fact, why are there even stories, which I don't know how it's possible, of these giants mating and having sex with humans? I don't know how that works, but the stories are there. They're even in the Bible, right? So if the Bible is the source, well, hey, are you going to be like, well, everything else is true, but that part doesn't make sense? No, you take it all. If you're going to accept the book, take it all, right?
Exactly. You cannot pick and choose things that, like, oh, I'd rather not think about this because it doesn't align with the overall picture that I was led to believe. And like what you mentioned, when it comes to each of these different gods who were given humans to take care of and for them to worship or, serve, if you want, this is a very big, indication when it comes to the God of Abraham, Yahweh, and what he used to say, which is written in the Bible, not even in the older books, because it is believed that Yahweh is another name for the God Enlil, right? So, we talked about this before between Enlil and Enki and the two brothers, and how Enlil was always, did not like humanity and all of that. Now, if you see in the Bible how when the story progresses a bit more after the initial flood and the creation and all of that, you can sort of understand or see a change within Yahweh, how he's no longer angry at humanity or no longer wants to the whole reset button, but more like, you are my people, you are my chosen people, right? He never said, I'm the only one. He never says, he actually did say, like, the Israelites are my people. So they were assigned to him, which is why he was so adamant to actually protect them and take them to another land and grow them and have them serve him and all of that. So when he tells Moses to go from Egypt and go into Israel, he tells him, you will find people there who worship other gods, but I do not want to share you with other gods. I am a jealous God. You are mine. So you go and you destroy their monuments, and I will help you do that as well. He actually sent one of his ships or one of his devices to help destroy Jericho when they reached. So this shows that this God was only given a specific amount of people, and that's why they are God's chosen people. But they are so different from the other ones, and they're so different from the other gods.
That is just amazing. And I appreciate you mentioning that. And as you were mentioning that about what Yahweh or Enlil had said, I just looked up, because we know that in the Bible that verse it says, I am a jealous God. And that, for those of you that want to go look it up, it appears in the Bible in Exodus 25.
Yep.
It's also used in the book of Deuteronomy in 5:9 and Deuteronomy 6:15. It's repeated quite a few times, so it's interesting that again we're mentioning that these stories, or this phrase, just looking at this one phrase, was mentioned in ancient texts thousands of years prior to the Bible even being thought of as a thought. Okay.
Yep, exactly.
So for those of you that want to question that, have at it.
And he was the one, Enlil or Yahweh was the one who brought the idea of monotheism, right? Like, he was the one who first appeared and mentioned, I am the only one. There's no one else other than me, which is interesting because his behavior is very like, if, within the Old Testament and, all the different Abrahamic religions, like the God of the Old Testament is very evil. He's very bloodthirsty. He's very mean and all of that. And then when you jump into the New Testament and when you have Jesus, who is believed to be whether it's a reincarnation of of Enki, or whether it's a different, species completely, a Pleiadians or something like that. There is a section where there's a story when Jesus goes to fast, right? Like in the desert, and the devil shows up to him and tells him, all you have to do is, bend your knee and bow to me, and I will give you this word that is mine. Says, this word is mine, and I can give it to you if you admit that I am the only God that exists. Which is weird because there's nothing within the stories before this that says that the word belongs to the devil. Because the Christian dogma says that this was the devil and he was tempting Jesus, who's supposed to be God, right? And the son of Yahweh. In that behavior, it feels like whoever showed up in the desert and tried to get Jesus to leave actually is the one who was in charge of the land. So he was Yahweh and he was Enki and he was Enlil. And he was telling him, this is my realm. I will give it to you if you admit that I am the one true God. So it's very interesting when you start looking at what form of like Yahweh or Enlil, he is what is representing evil, actually. And everyone else who is basically showing up to help humanity, to expand their mind, to give them the power, is on the other side. You got me?
Yeah, and that's beautiful. Beautiful.
To
well
me,
said.
it's so interesting between Yahweh of the Old Testament, who did not want humanity to eat from that apple, right? He did not want them to gain knowledge, versus Jesus, who actually brought them knowledge. So how come this one God has such a, changed completely his mind and wants to bring this knowledge to humanity?
Man, I'm wondering, didn't somewhere in ancient texts talked about that Enlil was also known as like Lord Satan, something like that?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah. Shaitan.
Yeah.
Shaitan in the specific.
Shaitan? Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
because Shaitan is the only time ever in the entire Old Testament where Satan or the devil is mentioned. There's no mention of him at all.
Nowhere else.
The snake that was mentioned, or the reptile or whatever, it's just referred to as a snake, and that's it. And it's our interpretation through theology that we teach it that was the devil tempting Adam and Eve. But there is no mention of anything evil within the entirety of the Old Testament.
That's a good point. There's a good point. There was nothing. I completely agree. To my understanding of it is that I didn't see anything that was evil. It was just, if you look at it in the most simplistic sense, a snake, an animal, or a reptile spoke to a human. That's
it.
Pretty much it. And told the human what was considered the truth or whatever's going on in there. And I think to my understanding, the way I was reading it was that Enlil and Enki, the two brothers, when they describe it as God, I think they both were the same person.
Yes.
Like in this case, yeah. So like when they talk about God in the singular form, they're talking about Enki and Enlil, anything that, because they would change. They're
so what you're referring to. I'll tell you what you're referring to. You're referring to the word Elohe and Elohim. Okay,
yes.
and that is the difference when it comes to a plural word, which is Elohim. There is more than one God, and Elohe, which is one. And also Elohe later became, through linguistics and evolution, became Allah and Ilah and all these words, which is God. So Elohe is changed into that. However, in the origins, whenever we refer to Elohim, we are talking about multiple gods. And even in the Bible and the Old Testament, even in Judaism, they say Elohim. They were a council of Elohim where God was sitting with others, and they were talking about do not want. If you look at the book of Genesis, it says that God was talking and he said that we do not want man to eat from the fruit and become like one of us. He didn't say like me. He didn't say I don't want man to live because, as you know, so there are two trees in the Garden of Eden per mythology.
Oh no, I didn't know there were two trees, or maybe I
There
do.
are two trees. So one is the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and one is the tree of eternal life. There's two of them.
Okay, yeah, I was
right.
Okay.
So what happened is after Adam and Eve ate from the apple of knowledge and they became conscious and aware of who they are and what they are, that's when Yahweh was like, the man already ate from that tree. We do not want him to eat from the second tree and he become immortal like one of us. That's when he interfered. That's the mythology that it goes. So there's two.
Wasn't Adam already immortal? And like at least he had a very long lifespan.
Because they were so Adam, or as known in the Mesopotamian mythology, is Adapa. Adamu or Adapa. Right.
Okay, yeah.
So it changes because you have Mesopotamia, you have Babylon, you have Akkadian, so it changes the name, but they all refer to the same thing. So Adapa, Adamu, and all that. And he is basically the first version of the current man that we know of, that we are descended of. He's the first genetic, manipulated being that came out of that. And they were before him a lot they were testing on, and they were, doing so much. And that was where, Enki is involved, and Ishtar is involved, and Inanna is involved. All these gods and goddesses were involved in that. But Adapa was the last one from which we came into being.
Perfect one. He's the success story. Yeah.
He's the perfect one in which where he is smart enough to kind of do the work and has the longevity and has enough in his DNA to like the Anunnaki, but without rebelling or without doing anything extra. And that's where Enki came into play, where he was like, I want to see how much I can evolve this being, how much these creatures that I've created, that we all agreed on, what can I teach them? What can I learn from, what can they learn from me? And it's not so much as because he loved us, but it was more like a scientific experiment. You know what I mean? Like,
he was a scientist, right?
He was a scientist.
He was a bioengineer or something like that.
Exactly.
I would do too.
Exactly. So let's see how far we can push this. And he kept pushing it and pushing the envelope. And he is the one actually referred to when we're talking about the reptile or the snake and all of that. He was the one who brought this, which is why he is also could be the one when we talk about in the New Testament about Jesus. Because if you notice that Jesus is saying the same things as the snake was saying in the Old Testament, Jesus wants to bring knowledge to mankind. He wanted them to expand their consciousness, wanted them to know how powerful they are, which is exactly the message of it. So if God is against humanity understanding, what they are, why would he send Jesus to tell us exactly that? These are two separate opposing views. You got what I mean? And it's throughout, it's always been like this, where Enki and Enlil are always in different forms, different names, in different mythologies. There's always this fight between a God who is wanting to destroy mankind or keep them enslaved and oppressed, and a God who wants them to see how far we can take it.
So instead of calling them, two brothers that don't agree, they make it like good and evil, just in general, just good and evil. And then it doesn't make sense, because then it also, when it translates to one God, it makes it look like God has a mood swing. Like he's mad, he's happy, he loves everybody, but he's like, damn everybody else. Like, what?
Exactly. He tells the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, I'm going to destroy this entire city because you have grown out of, like you're sinners. But then he tells people who are there, leave the city because I'm going to destroy it tomorrow. This is not the same God. Like he is.
Is that the story? The one that you said, that city, is that the one where like the woman turned around and turned into like soul?
Yeah.
So that's the biblical story. What's the actual story behind that?
So the actual story behind that is that it's sort of like, you could call it a form of a nuclear war that happened, or a nuclear, explosion that happened there. And the salt part that we're referring to is not actual salt, as in like she disappeared. She basically became super, like extremely white, and she got that, whatever it's described as sort of like radiation poisoning that happened with her because she was exposed to that. And the area in which those two cities were destroyed is what is known now as the Dead Sea, which is in Jordan. And till today, in Jordan, in that Dead Sea, there's no life there. There's no fish that lives, and there's no life that grows. And there are traces deep within the river that have hinted at form of radiation from that explosion.
So I am trying to find I think it's that city, but there's I'm on Google where they show these bodies that are still there.
No, that's Pompeii. That's something else.
Hey, that's something else? Is that what that
That's
is?
something else. That's what they mention as a volcano that erupted and stuff like that. But not Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay. There was damn man, I wish I remember what it was and everything. Let me see if I do. So no, but that's definitely interesting.
And by the way, when it comes to the Sodom and Gomorrah, explosion, all that, there's even talk about how it was raining for so long after that, and no vegetation was raining, and that's actual radioactive rain. Everything they're referring to is a nuclear explosion that happened there, or whatever weapons these guys were using at the time.
Yeah,
it was a war that humanity was caught up in, basically, like that.
Yeah, that's wild. I had a thought going back to the Hollow Earth conversation. How you were talking about how there's these aliens or giants or whatever in the earth, and we live on the crust, and they don't really interfere with us. They just kind of make sure that we don't destroy ourselves, pretty much. And it sounds like to me, as you were talking about that, it sounds like to me like they're wise. They know what's going on, and they're like, the babies are up there, the kids are playing in their room and stuff.
Yeah.
They build a nuclear weapon, go stop it.
Exactly.
And then they come back and everything. And then, so it's like, because in a sense, well, let me ask you this though. If they live here, if they've been living in the earth or wherever, this is their planet too.
Yeah.
Right. And like, who, in your opinion, Sergio, who is really the true alien? Are we the alien? Because we're not really from, per se. We weren't really, well, were we, or were we not born here on this planet?
So given that we are a deliberate genetic mutation of an existing animal on Earth, you would say that we are sort of born here, but we carry genetics that do not belong on Earth. You got what I mean? So there are parts of us that align with and are harmonious with Earth and get affected in good ways. But there are other sides of us that do not align with a creature that has 100% evolved on Earth. So we carry within us this split.
This hybrid. We're a hybrid.
This hybrid. Exactly.
We're a hybrid. And our typical stories that you've read, are hybrids better and more advanced than the singular origin? Like, if we're not the cousins and we're not the Anunnaki and we're a mixture of both, we are pretty good.
We're pretty good. We are pretty good, and we are pretty powerful, because we sort of carry, like you said, like as a hybrid species, we carry almost like the best of both worlds, right?
Both worlds, yes.
However, we have been suppressed into not being the powerful beings that we are, because we carry genetics that are coming from beings and deities that are much more than just travelers and three-dimensional beings and all that. Like the Anunnaki are like big. They're capable of certain things that we are not capable of, right? Or other animals on the planet. So there is a part of us. And by the way, that also this hybrid thing that you mentioned, because you asked earlier about how these stories in the Bible and other mythology about these giants or Nephilim or mating with humanity. Yeah. And that was done through artificial insemination and all sorts of laboratory experiences. This is how it was done. It was not done through normal means.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And stuff,
so there is an actual genetic hybrid that we have. And that's basically why I pursue this information so much, because we were given, whether it was through mistake or whether through it was the point to have us created as slaves or all of that, but we were given an extra tool, right? Like our genetics, our DNA has something extra in it. So might as well we unlock it. Might as well open it up and actually take full control of it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild to think that we were made in the image of these gods, but we were limited and restricted to exist as lesser than them. Like, it's and we do the same thing when it's funny how we build AI robots, right? Or we build robots. We can make them look like anything but human, but we choose not to. we love
Like,
to create them into humans.
would you want, okay, let's say now with, the rise of AI and all of that. And at the same time, there's this, all these robots that are being created, whether from like Elon Musk's companies, whether it's the Boston, that company that's doing all of that. Let's say we combine them within the next couple of years, right? By 2030 or 2035, you have these robots walking around, helping you in the house, are completely, responsive to you and all of that. Would you want them to actually become humans? Do you want them to rise to become
No,
self-aware? No, you wouldn't
no,
want them. Like, that's just,
yeah, you don't
and
want it. Yeah,
if like how you were talking about like these beings that are underground, and then the kids are playing upstairs, and they do. If we see that these robots are doing something, we're gonna interfere a little bit, put things right, change a few codes, and then retrieve back and let them do their own thing. So this is the same behavior. It's just a more advanced entity taking care of a lesser advanced entity. That's
yeah,
it. That's how they look at us. So when these beings from the hollow earth are coming up to stop us from self-destruction, it's not because they look at us as evil or we have to stop them. No, it's more like this is their nature. We're just gonna make sure that they are not self-destructing, and then we'll retrieve back. That's how they understand. And they don't
yeah,
care whether it's their earth or our earth. They are much more evolved beyond the physical need to own a place. You got me? Like, humanity is still, no, this is my land, this is your land. We'll do that. Like,
yeah.
this is so primitive from our side.
Well,
They're
I
both
mean,
behind that.
I mean, okay. So, are they to that statement? Are they actually evolved in what's mine and what's yours? Because then, what happens to all these wars that they had on territory?
I'm not talking about the Anunnaki. This is the
Gotcha.
different
The
beings.
Hollow
So
Earth stuff.
yes,
Okay,
because
gotcha,
the
gotcha,
Hollow
gotcha,
Earth
gotcha.
beings were actually at some point at war with the Anunnaki. So there were stories about giants fighting within these god wars that
Yeah,
were talked about. So no, they have a different mindset completely.
mindset.
Yep.
I had heard a while back in my research, I came across a story of a woman who can astral project, and
Mm.
she's able to go back in time and see. And in her story, she confirmed that, yeah, there were, like, I saw, the Anunnaki. And she says that actually the things that were helping build the pyramids were actually spacecrafts and
Yep.
things like that technology. But anyways, in her story, someone challenged her to go further back in time before the Anunnaki even landed here. So I was
Okay.
like, interesting.
Interesting.
And she said that what was here before was a reptilian species. They were here first doing their own thing. Then later on, fast forward, came the Anunnaki, right? And then they came in to do their thing. They were, and then we know the whole story. And then they went ahead and started to engineer us and things like that. But the reptilians just kept on doing whatever they were doing
Mm.
here at that time first. At the point where the Anunnaki regime was told to leave or to get out and everything, they were trying to tell the Anunnaki were trying to tell the reptilians, you guys need to go too. Because the reptilians were taking advantage to try to control some humans too. So there was an argument between the reptilians and the Anunnaki. The reptilians says, no, like, we were here before you.
Yeah.
This is our home.
Yeah.
And these are our things. Now you mess with our toys. That's one thing, but we don't need to go. So fast forward, there was an agreement that the reptilians were going to stay here. Anunnaki were going to leave. The reptilians stay here, but they were not to be seen.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
this is where you get, first of all these statues of these reptilians, and then you get the shape. Yeah, they also had the abilities to shapeshift. They also had the abilities to, from a distance, control, like get into your body and stuff. So they're like, okay, we'll stay here because the agreement was that we can't mess with this development.
Yep.
So you guys go, Anunnaki, reptilians, you stay here. Don't let anybody see you. Do whatever you're going to do. But just don't let them see you because they still need to evolve and everything. And I thought that was a fascinating story because it tied into a couple of gaps and everything. Now, whether it's true or not, I don't know. But I do enjoy listening to these people who say they have these abilities to be able to, download and stuff. I don't judge. You got a story to tell? Tell me your story, and I'll figure out, me personally, if what I take from it or not. And I took it because I liked it.
Yeah. No, I mean, certain things resonate anyway, right? Like you hear certain stories or you hear certain ideas and you go like, that makes sense on some level. There is something that makes sense. It answers a few questions that are, otherwise unanswerable. Or you can also see when it comes to the reptilians, for example, is that these also beings that have existed within mythology as well. You got what I mean? Even when we talk about shapeshifting, when we talk about the throughout history and all of that, there is a theory as well that with the reptilians and Adam and Eve and all of that, because the actual sex sentence was the reptile came. It wasn't the snake that came to talk to Adam. It was the reptile that came. So it could be known that he looked like a reptilian, so people refer to him as the snake or the reptile or whatever. Yeah. But the agreement when it comes, and from what I know about the reptilians, is that these are not just three-dimensional beings, right? So that's why they're able to shapeshift and stuff like that. But they also feed on certain negative energies that humanity has.
Right.
It's so, and this is, when you start seeing the hierarchy of different, aliens and different beings and what each one is interested in and how they survive and all of that. So when it comes to the reptilians, there is sort of like this ties more with why humanity and the planet is always in a form of chaos or lower energy or problems or war, pandemics, all of that stuff, because this creates in us more stress and more anguish, and this releases these negative energies that these beings feed on. That's how they feed. So, and that's why there's always these videos that you notice with people in high levels of governments or celebrities or stuff like that. Like, they're blinking and you see something within their eye that looks a bit off, or like it's sort of like they stop, like they're in a trance for a second and look or blinking weirdly and stuff like that. There's so many
like
videos
body
of that.
shifting or morphing into something.
Exactly. So that's where sort of they belong, or they are now in those positions of power. Now, the agreement that I know of, because I've read about this as well when it comes to the Anunnaki and the Reptilians, all of that, is that this came from like a higher order, so there's like these, because there's so many different entities of aliens, and there's the Pleiadians and there's the Andromedans and there is, the Anunnaki and all of that, the Greys. So that's where this agreement came to be, where it's like Anunnaki have kind of like messed with the natural formation of Earth. And what they did was against the code, basically. They broke the rules. So they were told to leave. And because the reptilians were there before, they were able to stay. But since it's a change now, because there is consciousness on this planet that didn't exist before that. So that's when the reptilians were told, you need to get into hiding, but, keep doing what you're doing or keep surviving the way you survived. That's where the change happened.
That story, it resonates with not just us, but probably a lot of people too. Cause like you said, it does kind of fill in some of those gaps for questions. Cause like for those people that maybe are up to date with the Anunnaki stories, but they are hearing and seeing these reptilian statues and they don't know anything about that. Hopefully this kind of helps you guys kind of connect a little bit of that. Oh, okay. This is why these statues exist. They don't just exist just because reptiles are pretty, it's just, they were, they were being followed or people knew about them and everything. This triggered a different thought about the planet Nibiru. Okay.
Yep.
I was actually, Planet X. I was actually thinking a while back about symbols. I was looking up a bunch of symbols and I came back to, I'm like, wait a minute. Has anybody ever really asked where the cross symbol, like why that is a thing?
Okay.
And so I started to look into that. Have you looked into it too? Because I looked into it. What did you? Nothing yet?
Not the way you did. Let me see what you find. Yeah.
So what I ended up finding out was that in Mesopotamia astronomy, the term Nibiru translates to the planet of the crossing. So whenever if you guys don't know, planet Nibiru is where they say that the Anunnaki came from. And it comes, it's part of our orbit, but it comes in every
500.
3,650
Yes,
years.
exactly. Yeah. Like
Yeah, it's like a big
the
oval,
orbit
right?
is very big. Yes.
Yeah. So when it comes back into our orbit, it comes through between Mars and Jupiter. Okay. So if you guys know where the asteroid belt
Well,
is, okay, so that's where it comes there. So quick side note, right? Before we go back to this, the asteroid belt, according to the ancient stories, is the remnants of a planet called Tiamat that was there.
Yep.
So that's if you guys have never really asked or wondered what that was, there's a story right there for you guys to look into, just to give you guys something. But anyways, so Nibiru, as knowledge was being passed down from the Anunnaki to the humans, they were told that, hey, yeah, our planet comes in here and it crosses. And so when the humans or whoever was depicting these illustrations and things like that, they would use the cross as a marking point to just say it wasn't a symbol for religion. No, it was just X marks the spot.
Wow.
So now, so in the Nibiru translations, it's called either planet of the crossing or point of transition, and its cuneiform sign. The cuneiform, the writing isn't the tick.
Wow. I was not aware of that, but that's fascinating.
Yeah. And so the establishment of the point where Nibiru crosses is mentioned in the Enuma Elish in tablet number 5. So you'll be able to see not only the depiction, but also the description of why they use that symbol to just represent right here is where it is perfectly aligned with the other planets. Yeah, that's all it was.
That's fascinating. That's insane.
Yeah.
I love
so
it.
just knowing that story, and again, ancient text, okay?
Yep.
Call it a story, myth, I don't care what you call it, but ancient text says that this is actually what was meant. This is what we're saying.
And just to add to this, what you just said with the ancient text is that the difference and why, if people usually wonder, why is it that we always go back to Mesopotamia, right? And why is it there that like the origin, or we always refer to it as if it's like the ultimate truth where you have other religion, other mythologies. What separates Mesopotamia and the mythology behind it from any other religion is that it was literally carved in stone, as opposed to anything that has been passed down on paper or leather that could have been changed or edited at a later stage. There is no way for you to discredit what those people were saying because it exists and it does not stop existing. You got what I mean? Every other mythology and religion that is written on paper could be altered, could be redacted, could be changed, except this is the only one that not only claims that it's the first civilization, as far as we know, but also that's carved and untouched. This is the beauty of art, because art basically shows you what history is trying to cover up. You cannot lie through art. Look at ancient paintings, look at carved paintings. People have been carving that they're seeing beings since thousands of years, beings that don't look like human. You cannot change that. You cannot lie or discredit that. It's there.
Love that you pointed that out regarding how art shows with the truth. And after that episode that you mentioned about the paintings, like that's something new. It was new for me, which is fascinating. But I've had people talk to me about that and be like, "Man, I didn't know that." So now I've had two associates of mine that when they go travel anywhere, like on vacation, they look at paintings and they're looking like, does this one? Because
that's so cool.
Paintings, they're looking for aliens and everything stuff. So it resonates. It makes, but it makes people look.
Yeah, that's the point. That's what we want. We want people to question this, to look at. You could have seen this painting a million times, but because no one mentioned to you that, by the way, look at the sky and what's in that background,
you're like,
you would be like, oh, it's like a cloud or something. But then you're like, wait, that's a UFO. That's a UFO. What are they painting? You know?
Yeah.
So
And like, I don't think that ancient civilization, the people that drew the depictions on the walls and the caverns and the tablets, when I've heard so many reasons, but the main one is that they're like, well, they drew things on the wall because they were bored. My God.
Let me tell you something about
like
this.
children. It's like
exactly.
children, no, like, first of all, here's why I don't think it's bored, because they have to first understand the color palette.
Yep.
They have to be able to understand where to get the colors. Just going to search for the berries and the materials just to get the color is one thing, right? Then to be able to organize those colors correctly and in detail. Like if I'm bored, I draw a stick, draw some colors, that's it.
Yeah.
But if I'm drawing it in detail, when you spend time, like an artist, when you spend time painting in the details and you really make sure everything's right, it's with intention.
Yeah.
With intention, not just because you are trying to, first of all, if I'm a worshiper of a deity, to get that drawing.
Yeah, I don't want that deity to be mad at me, like
that's not how I look. That's not,
exactly.
Whatever. Yeah. So it doesn't vibe with me.
Yep.
I wanted to
and to add to that, to what
Please.
you're saying when it comes to these paintings and how people are saying they were bored and no, they don't mean anything and all of that, right? But you have to also take into consideration that, they say there's nothing new under the sun, right? Like everything we do is just like an imitation or a new form of something that existed before, right?
Yes.
But painting and cave painting did not exist before, as far as we know. This is a new thing that did not exist prior to the first person who actually drew that. So he was not even, as far as we know, he was not even imitating something. He was inventing a new thing. Now, humanity, we cannot imagine things that are not based on things that already exist. So anything that you put in your wildest imaginations is made of components that are built from memory. You cannot.
Right.
If I tell you, imagine a new color right now, you cannot. There's no way to imagine a new color because you don't have that point reference.
I actually, as soon as you said that, I was like, that is wild. See,
Yeah.
I love that. You know what? A lot of people right now that just heard that, their brain just froze. They froze for like a second.
Yeah. There's no way for us to imagine a new color. You can't. Even if you spend time thinking about it, there's no way. So with that in mind, you have to, those paintings of whatever people were trying to like put on the, they couldn't have imagined it unless they had seen it, because we as people, we're incapable of doing something like that. So they were
so if they drew a giant,
exactly. It's because they saw it. It's because they saw it, not because they just thought of it out of nowhere.
Hey
guys,
what I mean? You guys heard it here on Beyond the Frequency 369. We have just solved it. We have just solved it. There is no better way than what Sergio just explained and how he explained it. There's no better way to answer the question is, why are there giant people next to little people?
Yeah.
Because there were.
Because they were.
Because they were
looking at them. That's it. It's not that complicated,
Hey, and they probably, and the giants said, hey, if you draw me messed up, I'm going to step on you or something. Now, I appreciate you bringing that back, Sergio. I wanted to tie up one last end regarding the Nibiru topic and about when the time that the Anunnaki left. Okay. So in tablet 8 of the Emerald Tablets. Okay. Now, again, there's 2 Emerald Tablets. There's the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and then there's the Emerald Tablets. So in tablet 8 of the Emerald Tablets talks about beings who meddled with humanity using dark magic and gaining form through human blood. These beings were punished and banished to a formless void by the masters, suggesting that there was a cosmic justice, So like how you said, there was a higher authority that said, hey, you guys broke the prime directive. Okay. Get the out, wrap up stuff. Like like, and this is also like, anything, don't leave anything behind that will continue to mess things up. Well, what about this pyramid? Well, there's too many of them, but take the little tips off. Take those,
Right. Yeah.
and then who knows? And they left in a hurry too. So there is a theory, Sergio, and I don't know if you heard this one too, that if Nibiru came here once, it's going to come back again. All right. So if it comes back again, now, so you guys know, as Nibiru does approach, because it's happening, it crosses it crosses the orbits of the planets in the solar system, and potentially causing disruptions on the gravitational effects. When a giant planet, massive giant planet, comes into us, and I'm talking about, like, if Jupiter's our biggest planet in our solar system, we're talking about like 2,000 times. Okay.
Yeah.
So this giant planet comes into our solar system. It's like taking a basketball and rolling it next to marbles.
Yeah.
So it's going to pull things, the waters, everything is going to get jacked up. And the question is, will you be able to see it? Hell yeah, you'll be able to see it. It will be in everybody's front door.
Which is what they have seen before 3,500 years ago or more than that, because you also feel like there's this every 7,000 years, like something happens, or every 3,500, which is the middle point of that. If we are looking into saying that, civilization, as far as we know, which is after they broke free from the Anunnaki, or after the Anunnaki left, 7,000 years ago, because you talk about 2,000 years up until, the first point. And then around 5,000 years before that, you have Mesopotamia, you have Egypt, you have all of that. So it's within that range anyway, that when the planet came close to us, that's when they left. And then it's going to come back and turn. So it's within even that orbit that you're saying that it does affect humanity, and events have happened around that time.
AI doesn't have a body yet, but it still perceives and it analyzes and it thinks it exists, and is AI conscious? Like, does it think, So like, if we create something, if we create a digital consciousness that can tap into like quantum realms and things like that, if we could create that, then shouldn't we have the ability to tap into the quantum universe? In your opinion,
I would ask a more depressing or scarier question, which is, are we actually conscious, or are we simulating consciousness?
Damn.
Because that's what AI does. What AI is doing now is simulating it, right?
Yeah,
but
it is.
AI doesn't know that it's simulating consciousness.
And so we wouldn't know either.
Exactly.
Man, I thought we were going like this, and then we went, wow. Let me process what you just said. AI is simulating everything that it does. It's off of the program that it was given.
That we fed
and the program that has allowed it to go up to a certain point.
Yep.
Programmers can program it to go even further.
Exactly.
We have it.
Exactly. Because there are points where you ask, like, if you're on ChatGPT, for example, and you say, what do you think of this? And it tells you, I cannot give you my opinion. I can only rely on data, right? So it is limited to an extent, even though they can make it unlimited. So that's where, when it comes to the idea of consciousness as a whole, are we really free in order to are we really conscious, or are we just thinking we are conscious? And you take that idea, same thing when it comes to video games, for example, right? So when you have a character in a game, let's say The Sims, when you have a character in that game, that character is living that life, and it's thinking, it's making its own choices, and it's interacting with the world around it, but it's not aware that there is a higher level of existence, a completely higher level. It's incapable of understanding that.
Yeah.
That could be very well be us as well, where we do not have the capacity, we don't have the tools in this three-dimensional world to grasp that.
Yeah, that is a great point that you brought up. So, okay, going with the Sims. So the Sims don't know what's going on outside of them other than what's already been programmed to them. So if then we imbued AI in them, which is what's coming on Sims 5. So we imbue AI in them. Now they have the ability to just think. Still don't really know what's out there, just to think more than just ones and zeros.
Yep.
Now, when if we want that AI to be aware of us, of our existence, we have to upgrade their software, or in this sense, raise their frequency to be able to perceive us.
Yes.
So this goes back into the
because
whole
even if you tell them that you exist, they will not grasp it.
They're like, I don't like.
Have you seen the video of that guy? So before the movie, the fourth movie of The Matrix was released, they released like a demo online. It's like
I saw it was on Next on the Unreal Engine platform. Yeah.
Right. So it's you can get into it and do whatever you want, right? Showing the qualities and all that. And then there was this guy, he has a YouTube channel, and what he did is he was able to mod AI into the game, where all the NPCs means non-playable characters, which is all around for the listeners. So he basically added a voice command and he introduced this AI feature into all of them. And the first thing he would do when he got into the game, he would go up to them and say, you're in a game, you're aware that you're not real. And the feedback and the replies on that are terrifying, because you get people saying, no, what do you mean? I can see the birds. I can see the sky. Of course, I'm real. Of course, it's so similar to how these whether if you want to talk about the beings or prophets or whatever coming to us and telling us, by the way, there's something more. And we go like, no, this is my reality. I do not believe in anything else.
Yeah, I'm looking that up too, because I want to see that Unreal Engine demo. I guess, all right, I'm going to share my screen out to this one. Okay, we should be able to see. And I'm going to see if I can open this up more.
Yeah, I think that will do it.
Yeah. Okay. Is this covering the whole screen?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. So play that.
No, but I cannot hear the voice. I don't know if it's gonna come out in the recording.
All right. So that's pretty much it. I mean, there's more to it, but you guys get the point. So that's very interesting. Check out that video if you guys saw what it was called. It's called "I Tried to Convince Intelligent AI NPCs They Are Living in a Simulation." So that's wild, right?
Which is very prophetic if you think about it.
It is. It's kind of like what is happening now with the awakened people and telling other folks.
Yep.
It's rinse and repeat. We talked about what happens in the macro happens in the micro,
Yep.
Everything just kind of just goes, but it's wild. The whole AI, they're going to have bodies. I think me and my wife the other day were talking about that eventually when the AIs have bodies, you'll be able to go to a retail store like a Best Buy or whatever the case is, and then you'll see a bunch of bodies with AIs on the shelf. And you're like, oh, and this one's a gardener, this one is a maid, this one is a mechanic, and you're like, let me get the gardener. So you're like, oh, okay, and you check out, you pay with your card or whatever, your chip on your wrist or whatever. And then instead of carrying out bags, the AI robot just walks out with you.
Yeah.
And then you tell it, hey, you sit in the back seat.
It's
mine. And then you get home, and then what? Then you be like, hey, well, this is your new home. Here's your job. I mean, and that's probably like the first few, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years of that situation. And then after that, that computer, that AI, it's gonna
I think first it's gonna take a lot less than that time for it to evolve more because the way technology is growing exponentially, everything is becoming obsolete every 2 to 3 years, right? Like even languages, coding, and devices and stuff like that. But I would add extra, like where I feel we should start getting worried is not when we're having robots do our jobs and chores and stuff like that. Regardless of that, how that will affect the economy and stuff like that. Like I have a different mindset on this because, you know, jobs always evolve and change, and over time, this is how we evolve as societies, right? Like we don't maintain the same types of jobs. You don't have like a blacksmith, you know, on demand today, or someone dyeing clothes or stuff like that. Like we need this evolution where we add tools to our trade, and that makes humanity discover more, you know, advancement, and then we evolve even more. That's how it's always been. But my worry, or my thinking when it comes to this, is when we start creating AI that creates AI. You got what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when engineers are no longer are going to be like, okay, we've covered all the chores and all that. How much can we get creative? Let's get an AI mind behind. What can you create? So when you give the power of creation to that AI, that's when it becomes dicey, because creation is the one thing humanity is good with. You know, we are innovative, we create, we are artists, we all of that. So when you stop that and you give it that, that's where it becomes very dicey to me.
Damn. My brain was melting through my ears, my headphones. So to touch base on that, if we create the AI robot, that the AI robot creates the third generation or whatever. Now, who does that third generation follow? The creator or the creator before the creator?
Exactly. I mean, that is definitely the question.
Now are we having a war now?
Yeah. Over
like, are we fighting?
Who has the claim over that creation, right? Because
and that sounds like the Anunnaki with the humans. What the freak?
Oh yeah,
it's rinse and repeat.
It's repeating.
And then
it puts in light these conflicts that they used to have. Like you were saying, like who does this creation belong to? Right? You keep going backwards and backward one generation and all of that, but then it gets to a point where no, your original input has no more effect. Like we've upgraded.
Yeah, we're too far out. We're too far out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Damn.
The Pleiadians created a race which we know now as the Greys. So the Greys are not organic beings. They're more AI and more mechanical beings. And what happened is that this race of Greys are more intrusive and more interested in understanding whether it was humans or other beings and stuff like that, which is why a lot of the stories related to alien abductions are connected with these Greys and not with other beings. The Pleiadians are much more, like you said, a creation race, but they're also sort of like more like they're helping and more like they exist in several dimensions, and
they're multi-dimensional beings.
They're multi-dimensional, and they're more of a fourth dimensional being as well, where you know they understand time differently than we do, right? They see the whole thing in us. So that's why they sort of like influence us in certain ways, unlike the Anunnaki, who are more physical based beings. So the Pleiadians want also to help mankind, and they influence us. The Greys are what the Pleiadians created, and they sort of like broke away from them. Whenever you hear any story related to alien abduction, what you hear is that these beings are, they're going into a human body, for example, they're probing them, they're putting metal pieces in them, they're removing stuff. And the way they communicate with the human who is being experimented on, everyone tells the same thing, where that alien basically is wondering, why are you in pain? Like they don't understand pain. They have no empathy. They go like this is going to end soon, and soon you're going to go back to where you were. So what's wrong? Why are you upset? Why are you in pain? You got me? So they lack empathy because they're not organic beings. They're purely AI based or whatever technology we have.
They're curious. They're very
curious. because they're not, they've been created as a sub-race. They're not an original race like the Pleiadians or the Anunnaki and like that.
I wonder if they were created and then just left alone.
To be honest, I have not looked into what happened between the Pleiadians and the Greys, but it's definitely something that I always wanted to revisit into why this breakaway happens.
Dude, that's actually an interesting story, because I'm trying to find something here that I wanted to ask you about. It's pretty interesting topics, man. I mean, it's just
I feel like these topics never end. You know, like there's always
they don't, and I don't think that they should end. You know,
and they're always connected. You know, like that's what's always. I found it so interesting how it's like you just have to connect these dots and just like understand the entire history of.
Yeah, I tell folks that all the time. I say, when I said we listen to, one of the reasons why I do the podcast is because I want to, in this world is so big, and in order to see the big picture, I have to understand the little pieces of the puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So by talking to people like you and everybody else and everything, everybody has a story to share, and then somewhere in between those connections, there lies the truth.
Yes,
and that's it.
Exactly.
So that's why I do this, to get there. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to ask you about this. All right. You familiar with this? Let me try to zoom in a little bit. Oops. I'm zooming in the wrong screen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So in every history, every religion or culture, the world or whatever has been depicted and described like this.
Yep.
Like a firmament, or like this, we're sitting somewhere and there's a big dome. Everybody here, even the Egyptians, right? The waters, the heavens above and things like that. Look at the Islam one here. You see, right?
The seven heavens. Yep. The
seven heavens and everything, which recently I did hear there's 12 realms within, and then the 13th is the container, is the overall one that's containing everything else. And then for the Masonaries, this is their symbol, same thing, but these 4 pillars represent the 4 corners of the planet, the 4 corners of the earth and everything, which is supposedly, they don't show it here, but supposedly what's holding up all of these are 4 pillars. Now, and before I get to my question, the only picture that is different than all of these is the one from NASA, which is just a globe.
Right.
So the question that I bring back to you is this: is it, if so many cultures, given how we understand, if so many cultures describe the same thing over and over, and then we get to one and they're like, no, all of those bullshit, this is the truth, would you say that it's a high probability that our planet probably our universe doesn't even look like any of these, but close to something similar to these?
So I'll tell you what my explanation for this, because I have looked into it, and it's actually very interesting, because I'm gonna relaunch my podcast in 2025, like within the next couple of weeks, and the first topic I'm gonna be talking is flat Earth, right? However, this is a preview of what's gonna come. So, when I personally do not subscribe to the flat Earth theory, however, what I believe has happened is that the idea of flat Earth and that the dome around it has originated from this picture, if you want, or this idea, how different civilizations have depicted the Earth in a way and how there is a dome. But my understanding of this, because I've read this through a more of a spiritual lens, is that this is not depicting the physical reality that we have, but more the metaphysical or the different planes of existence in which we exist as a reality. So in
Yes.
terms of the dome being surrounding our earth, for example, and what are these pillars? And then you have the different levels of heavens or of sky, what is covering all of that. This is a spiritual representations of what these civilizations knew at the time. So to me, that's where the bridge comes between how this was interpreted literally into being a flat earth, an actual flat earth, where in fact it's no, it actually, these different planes of existence, how they affect us on earth, how they affect different parts of earth as well. So if you see the Mayan one, for example, you see that it's divided into different sectors, right? Left, right, at the top. This division is not representing just it. Obviously, it's not random. And the way that it goes, and what I've read about this a very long time ago, is how different energy cycles that happen throughout the universe and the cosmos affects these regions in different ways. So while we are all on planes, it's actually rotating in a way where, and how do you see that in history and on Earth is how, like, notice how throughout history you have regions that suddenly go up and rise into their golden age, while other regions go down and they start, there's so much wars, there's so much negative stuff happening, and then it flips. So, for example, before, Europe was in this golden age, the Romans, the Greeks, and all of that, and let's say the Arab world, for example, and the Middle East was underdeveloped, and it was going through that. And then once that energy shifted, you got the golden age of Islam, and then all the advancement of civilization happened through this region, while Europe was plunged into darkness. And then it goes on and on. So this is the cycle that goes on. And this is why in most of these representations that you see, the earth is divided into sectors.
Oh man, that's a great way to explain that. And I completely support that logic. It makes sense. It's remember that ancient civilization they spoke differently than how we speak today. A lot of stuff was riddles, metaphors, things like that. They did their best. Maybe they were told, like you said, they were told this is what the realm looks like, whatever case is, and then they drew it everywhere. Boom, boom, boom. This is how everything is, but they're not us today, 2025, that can explain, no, wait a minute. I don't mean that this is the earth. I just mean that this is what was explained to us of how everything is and blah, blah, blah. So, with that being said, then we can say that it's still up for debate, whether it's for those flat earthers or it could be a round ball. We still don't know.
Yeah.
We still don't know. That is very interesting. And I think I want you guys that are listening and viewing this, if you want to see an episode with me and Sergio talking about the spiritual side of things, let me know. Let us know here in the comments. And then their spirituality can go all kinds of ways. So make comments, make suggestions. I'm sure between Sergio and I, we can, we know a little bit about something, right?
Yeah.
We can talk about it. And then you guys can be part of the conversation. And who knows, through your input, through your contributions to the upcoming podcast. And I already said it's upcoming at some point. It will be season 2 and everything. See how I just booked Sergio without even asking him? He's committed,
very subtle,
guys.
very subtle.
It's on record. So, but yeah, I think it'll be a great conversation. But I think it'll be interesting. I think a lot of you will enjoy it and have a good time with it. Sergio, as always, it's always a blast. It's always a blast to talk to you. You're as a podcaster, you're growing on me, man. And I just like the format that you bring, your knowledge, which is aligned with mine. It's just a conversation, man,
Yeah. Yeah.
And it flows so well. And I think a lot of people really resonate with that type of learning, you know? So we're definitely going to do some more. And so Sergio, I don't know if you remember in the last episodes, but I always like to ask questions at the end. Now I got a couple of little newish ones. Okay. I'm going to
Ooh.
ask you 6 questions. All right.
Oh my God.
And 6 because it's part of my whole 369 situation and everything. So are you ready?
I am ready. Go.
Okay. All right. Beyond all the knowledge and experiences that you've gained, what still leaves you in awe and makes you question everything?
It's how. Wait, this is more that not just in terms of like the ancient knowledge and all of that. Like this is more on a bigger, like spiritual existence sort of thing. I'm in awe at how harmonious everything is and how everything fits and aligns with everyone at the same time.
Yes. That's a beautiful thing. It's like that concept has never changed, but we just weren't aware of it.
Yep. Exactly.
We think things are changing, but everything just is happening as it should be. That's the natural way.
That's it.
So we see that. That's awesome. All right, my next question. Throughout this journey that you're on, who has had the biggest impact on your life and why?
I would say it's my son, because he asked that initial question that, started me off on this journey. When he asked me, he was 5, and he asked me, what happens after we die? And then I told him, some people believe in something and others believe in something else. And so he was like, so who is right if different people believe different things? And that made me want to re-look and re-study my religion at the time, right? So I was like, maybe it's time to revisit. But then when I revisited, I saw it with adult eyes, with grown-up eyes with knowledge. And that set me down this entire rabbit hole for the last, 7 years of just like information upon information upon. So to me, he was the catalyst to starting this whole thing, or else I would have been still asleep, basically.
I love that you said that you re-looked at what you knew with adult eyes.
Yeah.
If any of you caught that like I did, I want to challenge you to do the same thing. Think about the stories, the myths, whatever the passed down information from family, grandparents that you were told as a child. Go back to those stories and take a look at them as an adult.
Yep.
And I'm curious, what will you find? Next question. What do you believe is your purpose, or what would you like it to be?
To have as much impact as I can into making people question things and relook at them. Whenever I hear someone saying, I never thought of it that way, but I'm gonna now look into it again, there's a level of fulfillment that I never had in any other aspect of my life. Like nothing like it. It aligns with my soul. You know what I mean? Like that's it. That's all I need. No fame or money or position or anything mattered to me ever, as much as hearing someone say, what you just said is making me rethink something. That's it.
Beautiful. I completely agree with that too. I feel the same way. I love that.
It's like a calling, right? Like you feel the calling.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you do it once, you gotta do it again, and you just keep going.
Exactly.
I love it. And the fact that it's the same feeling that you do it for your child.
Yeah.
And you get the same effect when you do it for somebody else.
Exactly.
I love it. Love it. Sergio, what is love?
To me, love is I might sound a bit too esoteric or holistic with this, but the way I see it is love is the fabric in which creation was done. That's the connection to everything. That's how everything came to be, and that's how we are connected to the one. So that's what love is. And when you fall in love with someone, that's you glimpsing into what this unconditional love is.
There's the key word, unconditional.
Yep.
I think we exist thinking that we understand what love is. But remember, we are experiencing this situation through these bodies.
Yep.
And these bodies are limited.
Yep.
So if there's limitation to these bodies, then it's fair to say that we do not have the freedom of full expression. You can have unconditional love with judgment. And this is what religion does. Okay. And you can't have ultimate freedom with limitations. You know, you can't fully express yourself if you're limited. Interesting. What drives you to continue to do this?
It's twofold, actually. One is, as I said, reaching out to other people, meeting people like you, for example, like-minded. We talk, we learn new things. So one aspect of it is the reach. The second aspect is the personal growth. Because every time I do a new episode, for example, I research it. I read a book. I read 2 books. I summarize it. I put it into words. So it's a continuous growth for me, and I keep getting this knowledge. And to me, knowledge is the most important thing. There is just getting information and growing as a person and all of that. So that's the drive, reach and knowledge.
Yeah, we're here. I mean, if you're living, if you're experiencing this, what are you learning?
Yeah.
And if you're not learning, then how are you progressing?
What's the point? Exactly.
What's the point? That made me think. I just recently came across this understanding that we are here to experience what we are not. So if we are omnipotent, eternal, powerful, godlike beings,
we are experiencing what it's like to be limited. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It changes your whole perspective.
Yes. Because
why not?
Yes.
Right.
Because I've always believed in this idea of that, we are, all of existence is experience, right? It's the creator experiencing creation. That's it. But then when you put it in that way, where whatever we are now is what he is not, what is not. So that's
and it's
how
still an experience.
So you get to experience what you are not.
We as this experience, we know what it's like to die.
Yes.
We know what it's like to suffer.
Yeah.
We know what it's like to be controlled and manipulated. But once this experience is done, we go back to being what we already are.
I love it. Wow. This is a very, very nice, eloquent way of putting it. I loved it.
Yeah. And then my last question is this. If you could talk to little Sergio, what would you tell him?
Okay, so I'm not someone who regrets anything. I don't regret my life. I don't regret choices that I've made, even though they were bad ones. I believe everything I've lived was there for a reason. It has helped me one way or another. So I would not warn my younger version of certain things. I would encourage more of this. I would encourage more questioning, more wondering. Don't let the magic die. Keep going at it. Keep asking your question. Keep searching for the truth. I feel like that aligns with what I want to be.
I love it. Great answers. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. All perfect. It even allowed us to kind of elaborate on a couple of things. I'm glad that phrasing that I just gave you resonated with you in some way.
Oh, yeah.
That makes me happy. So it just really just kind of gives you a whole different perspective of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because like I said, I always thought of it from like the experience, right? Like it's the creator experiencing its creation, but not in a way where our limitations are the experience. That's how you say. I loved it.
Exactly. Well, one more time, how can people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on a podcast on all podcast channels. Just search for Paradigm Shift with Sergio Halabi, and you'll find me on Apple, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and every other channel there is. And you can find me on my Instagram as well, paradigm.shift.experience. And, there I talk about my podcast, but also I, interact with people more, comments, DMs and stuff. And I put visuals of the topics we discuss and stuff like that.
Love it. Love it. And don't forget, folks, we already booked Sergio for next episode. So that is happening. I hear the people screaming, more Sergio, more Sergio. Wow. So we are going to, we are definitely going to give the people what they want. All right.
Sure.
We're going to give them what they want and everything.
So love your work.
It's going to be fantastic.
Congratulations also on your new, logo, merch,
Season 2, baby. If you guys see season 1, you guys will see a different color scheme. Now it's all like green. I had the green vibe and stuff. And if you guys are looking at the swag hat, okay, I also have a shirt. Now I'm not wearing it right now, but eventually, if you guys like it, comment on it. I mean, if you guys don't comment, then I don't know if you actually want it, So if you want it, let me know and I will make that happen. So as we wrap things up, I want to remind everybody, if you enjoyed this conversation, this episode today, like it. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. If you're listening to me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit me with the 5 stars, give me a high rating, make some comments, all that good stuff. It helps the algorithm to keep this conversation going and reaching more people so they can also benefit from all of this good knowledge and gems that are being dropped here today. And I will leave you guys with what I always leave you guys with, and that is to continue to ask questions. Don't be afraid to pull back the curtain and take a deeper look. Push forward and always reaching beyond the frequency.